Well, good morning and welcome in. Apologize for being a couple of minutes late today. Some technical difficulties. We'll have to iron out a little bit later. But you never want to see your team play the way the Sixers did last night, 2 games before the playoffs. And if you include last night's game, obviously 3 games before the playoffs. And I know that the Heat have given him problems in the past. I know Jimmy Butler has given him problems in the past. I know Tyler Hero has given him problems in the past. But on a night where Joel Embiid plays, and for all intents and purposes, played, was 100% healthy, he looked terrible last night. Ben Simmons looked awful last night. Danny Green, Tobias Harris actually showed some life early in this game and looked like the only guy that was willing to be able to put up points for this team. From top to bottom, everybody in this wearing a Sixers jersey yesterday in Miami looked awful. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm watching the game and I'm physically getting pissed off. I'm angry at Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. And I'm angry at Doc Rivers because the thoughts in my head that he doesn't have his team prepared to play this game. It's going to be their last playoff-esque game before the playoffs because they got the 2 games left against the Orlando Magic. And you have the number 1 seed you're ready to put in your back pocket going to Miami last night, and it was like, nah, do we really need to win this game? We got Orlando the next 2 games. We can lock it up then. That's a awful thought to have. Like, wouldn't you want to win against a decent opponent, an opponent you might actually face in the playoffs, rather than just beat Orlando? Like, I hope that wasn't the mindset going into the game. And here's what I'll say. I don't think it was. I don't think the Sixers went into that game just being like, nah, Orlando's coming up. We don't got to worry about the Miami Heat. I think they actually went into that game looking to win. I actually think they went into that game looking to make a statement, right? Win against a good team. So for the people that are thinking, and I had this back and forth with some people on Twitter last night during the game that were sharing a similar thought that I was. But as that game was going on last night, a couple of people hit me up and just said, well, they know they got the Magic. I don't think that was the mindset going into last night's game. I actually think the Miami Heat took the Sixers mindset and just threw it out the window and said, guess what? We're going to get in your head, and we're going to tell you what you have to think for this game. Haslam's an example of that, trying to get in the face of Dwight Howard, trying to get in the face of Joel Embiid. You certainly had that going on with Trevor Ariza and Joel Embiid. The Heat played the Sixers like a fiddle. And you don't ever want to see a game like that right before the postseason, regardless of whether or not the Sixers lock up the number 1 seed, which I still very much think they will. It's not like I think they're going to all of a sudden be the 2 seed or anything like that. But you just don't want to see your team play the way they played last night. They were toyed with last night. And I love that Doc Rivers said it after the game. I'll let you hear some of his comments post-game in a second. Also, later today, we're going to talk to our friend Barrett Brooks, NBC Sports Philadelphia. He's going to help us go through the Eagles' schedule, as well as his thoughts on the Eagles with rookie camp and all that stuff going on. Devontae Smith, we'll get to him coming up in a minute. We also got some Phillies conversation because they had a bit of a dud yesterday as well. But this Sixers game just has me in such a bad place. And I went into that game seeing that Joel Embiid not only was with the team in Miami, because we said yesterday, it was reported from John Clark that he wasn't with the team yet. Apparently, he joined up with the team, and he was going to play. And I thought, you know what? This is going to be the night. There's no way Joel Embiid is playing in this game, and they're going to give anything less than max effort trying to lock up that number 1 spot. And who do I see constantly get beat by Bam Adebayo on little tip-ins? Like, it wasn't like Adebayo was getting the ball, at the elbow and backing Embiid down or anything like that and getting points that way. No, he was just out hustling Joel Embiid. The entire Sixers team was out hustled. And during the game, I'm just like, they just looked lethargic. And I try not to follow the stats during play, but like at halftime, I'll look at it. And at halftime, it was like 27-12 in favor of the Heat and rebounds. The Heat were out rebounding the Sixers 27-12. And I know that the Sixers were missing shots left and right, and I was watching the Heat hit the outside shot, and they were shooting 57% from the floor by halftime. And I'm like, you know what? They won't do that in the second half. Yeah, but you know what they did do in the second half? They continued to hustle. They continued to look like a team that wanted to make a statement. They looked like a team that wanted to go on to win 11-14 to round out their season. And I can't get over it. And you know what? Doc Rivers did talk about it after the game, as promised. Here's Doc on what his team looked like last night in Miami.
I'm assuming everybody's fine.
Excuse me. Before I said that, let me set that up properly. He was also asked about Joel Embiid and whether or not he was 100% and whether or not everybody was 100% going into last night's game health-wise.
I'm assuming everybody's fine tomorrow, Marc, and I think we wouldn't play him if he wasn't 100%. So, yeah. But if Joel, nobody played well, so I would love to say it was Joel or Ben or Tobias. I thought we all were bad. We all looked like we were stuck in the mud tonight. No explanation for it, but that's how it looked.
So they're all of a sudden supposed to be a better basketball team tonight. Now, obviously, they play a much worse basketball team in the Orlando Magic, so they do have the opportunity to bounce right back for a Friday night a game against Orlando coming back home. But am I like out of my mind to be as upset, as like pissed off at the way they played? I never feel, and I always feel like, here's what I feel. When I watch the Sixers play against a team like Orlando or a much inferior team, and they play okay but not great, like they don't do exactly what they're supposed to be doing against a team that's that inferior, I never think about it as just playing against the Orlando Magic or playing against the Cleveland Cavaliers, for instance, or any team they might have struggled against that they shouldn't have struggled against. Anytime I watch them, but they still win, but anytime I see them play down to their opponent, I'm not necessarily just thinking about them playing that opponent. I'm thinking, wow, you're lucky you're not playing some other. You're lucky you're not playing the Nets. You're lucky you're not playing the Bucks. I always take it and apply it to that because that's really what the measuring stick is. What if you have a game like this against those better teams? They're going to take far more advantage of your mistakes than this terrible team is going to do. And this game last night, the unfortunate thing was you were playing down to an opponent that is actually good. Like, this should be a game that the Sixers get up for. This shouldn't be a game where you're watching Haslam get in your head or Ariza get in your head or watching Bam Adebayo beat Joel Embiid out for rebounds on simple, like, it's like CYO or it's like intramural basketball. They'll teach you how to box out. And you didn't even see any of that last night. And I'm not expecting the most fundamentally sound game from a lot of professionals a lot of the time, unfortunately. But when it just comes down to hustle and effort and not playing like Doc Rivers said, like you were stuck in the mud, man, that was terrible. I expected at least a good game going against the Heat. Another team that's been hot, another team that's a playoff-bound team, the whole Jimmy Butler aspect of it, who certainly helped set the tone for the Heat last night. And the Sixers just didn't show up. Man. All right, look, whatever the line is for the night's game, you got to win by like 30. Help nullify anything. I mean, really, you can't do anything. This was the one game that was your measuring stick game against the playoff team before the playoffs. And Danny Green even said it last night. This should be the game that you get up for because you might even face Miami in the postseason. And they didn't have anything. And another thing is, Miami teams or whatever teams go into Miami, they never play well. Well, Miami's lost 15 games at home this year. So it's not like exactly like they're crushing it at home right now. The 5 games over 500 at home, and it's not even like you have it's not the typical week, or it's not the typical night in Miami with COVID and restrictions and all that. It's not like you should be going out and partying, and that's usually what people will look to why opponents play so poorly in Miami. But whatever it was, something was in the air last night for the Sixers, and I thought if Joel Embiid was going to be in that game, and if he was going to play, regardless of an illness, if he was going to play, that they were going to win, or at least give Miami a game, and they certainly did not. And I can't believe how pissed off I am about the third to last game of the season. Hope for a better effort against the Magic. Hope for a better effort tonight and through the weekend. So hopefully that's what happens. We'll talk a little bit more about the Sixers game a little bit later in our Morning Rush segment. And like I said, Barrett Brooks is going to join us to talk some Eagles football heading into the weekend. He'll join us in just a second. Phillies get Zach Eflin on the hill yesterday, and I was just utterly confused. They lose. They lose the last game of the 3-game series against the Nationals, and just another awful performance with the bats. The bats go ice cold yet again. But Zach Eflin's on the hill, and there was an interesting thing that took place in yesterday's game. The one Phillies run was originally scored an error with an error, but a put out. But there was no put out on the play. I haven't really seen that before. And Tom McCarthy and John Kruk were actually all over it during the game yesterday, so give him credit for that. But yesterday, I'm watching a double steal essentially get executed, an attempted pickoff at first base, and then I think it was Andrew McCutchen that later came in to score. And they ruled it a put out when there was no out. And I thought, all right, well, that's weird, but they scored a run, so the Phillies are winning. We can at least feel good about that before they got the series coming up against the Blue Jays. But then the bats went on to do nothing. And Rhys Hoskins continues to look lost at the plate. He went from the 2-hole hitter to the 7-hole hitter to yesterday with JT Realmuto being out of the lineup and also being short-handed because you don't have Didi Gregorius. He went from 2-hole hitter, 7-hole, to your cleanup man yesterday. So he's been all over the lineup in the last couple of days. Bryce Harper, who has been the MVP, quite frankly, of this team, again, got a hit for you yesterday, fine. But he looks like a guy that lately has been looking to find his swing. You've been watching a guy like Andrew McCutchen who's been able to get hot lately and get his average back up to well over 200 now. You have Gene Segura back at second base. Nick Maton's playing shortstop for you. But Alec Boehm, you would think on a day where he got you a little bit of offense, when he got a nice hit for you, you would think with these guys getting hits, you would have more of an offensive output. And it just wasn't the way it fell into place for the Phillies yesterday, unfortunately. They too looked lethargic. It was the tone was set for Philadelphia sports really in the early portions of yesterday when you had the afternoon game against Washington, and then you watch the Sixers the way they played in Miami. It was just an awful day, more or less, to watch Philadelphia sports. I wish I could say it was something better, but man, it was far from it yesterday. Not enjoyable. Coming up as part of our morning rush this weekend, you're going to see some of the pro basketball. Excuse me. The Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. You're going to see guys inducted, and one of those guys is Kobe Bryant. I'm going to tell you my progression of following Kobe Bryant. And we had Mike Sealski on 2 days ago, and Mike talked to us about the book that he's writing, The Rise, and it's really the rise of Kobe Bryant getting to the NBA. And I'm going to tell you about my whole process of how I watched Kobe Bryant and admired Kobe Bryant and went through the Sixer fandom that I went through and really what it was like watching the 01 finals and all that and what my mind goes to when I think of Kobe Bryant and obviously the tragic end. But I'm going to get into that in our morning rush segment because I want to make sure I take some time to do that today on today's program. So we'll do that coming up in just a second. But I do want to tell you about my friend Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. I love talking about Steven Singer here at the Steven Singer Studios. The competition, though, you know what? They really hate this guy. You know why they hate this guy? Because he makes buying a diamond so much fun, so enjoyable, and he makes the experience better and better each time. And you know what else he does? He sets everything at the perfect price. Other jewelers, here's a little insider tip. What they like to do is they like to mark up the inventory so that when you walk into the store, you feel like you can haggle a little bit, you feel like you can negotiate a little bit, but you know what? That adds pressure to somebody who already has a lot of pressure from buying a diamond. You don't need that. You walk in, perfect price every single time. You go in, head to Steven Singer, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right in Philadelphia, and you never pay more than the person next to you. Most jewelers, they mark it up. Steven has it set at the perfect price. 365 days a year, guaranteed every single time. There's no promo code for this ad. There's nothing like that because everything's already set at the perfect price every single time. So check out Steven Singer Jewelers at the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right in Philadelphia, or IHateStevenSinger.com. That's online at IHateStevenSinger.com. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. All right, you know what? Let's step away from what we saw yesterday with the Phillies 5-1 loss. Let's step away from what we saw yesterday with the Sixers just getting blown out of the water by the Miami Heat. Let's step away from that for a second and look forward to a Philadelphia Eagles football season. To help us go through the schedule, as well as his thoughts on Devontae Smith, and how about this, Nick Sirianni, let's bring in our good friend from NBC Sports Philadelphia on the Zatos Investments guest line, Mr. Barrett Brooks. And joining us now on the Zatos Investments guest line, welcome back to the program, my good friend from NBC Sports Philadelphia, and also The Middle, which you can also catch on jacobmedia.com. My good friend, Mr. Barrett Brooks, joins us. What's going on there, B. Brooks?
What's up, man? What's going on, man? Just checking the schedule out and, seeing where I can get a win or here or win there with the Eagles, man.
Did you go through it? Did you do the W's and L's? And remember, it's 17 games now.
Well, you know what? I kind of messed up, man, because I thought from the mentality of being at a team that's very good. I left Pittsburgh. I was with the Giants before that, and I was with Green Bay. And at the time, all three of those teams were good. So when I look at this schedule, I look at it differently from the way the Eagles should be looking at it right now, because I'm thinking like the Eagles are still a great team. They're still a good team, a team that's going to compete every year. Am I, smoking something, or, I'm getting things wrong right now? Because I thought, they could easily, when I look at the schedule, they could easily have 10, 11 games. But
your eyes are a little red right now.
Right. I drank the Kool-Aid, but I have to understand now, man. I got to be realistic in what I have and what we see. And, it's going to be a tough season for this Birds team.
Let me ask you this. So right out of the gate, the first thing that jumped out to me was usually this team's pushing it to the limit with like 6 primetime games. There's 2, and there's no primetime games after week 6 of the regular season. So obviously they can always be flexed in, and I know a lot of this has to do with Jalen Hurts. A lot of this has to do with the unknown that Nick Sirianni is and his offense and his coaching ability and all that. But when you're a player, are you hoping that there's primetime games, or are you happy that most of your games are like 1 and 4 o'clock?
Well, you do want a primetime game. You want everybody to be looking at you while you're playing. There'll be a lot of teams that have done playing for the day. Then guys go home if they don't go out, and they get to watch the rest of the NFL. And when you're playing the primetime games, you're the only team going. You're the best show on town. So, you want to play underneath the lights. You want to be out there and playing when nobody else is playing, so people can see you, see how good you are, and evaluate you that way. So you want those primetime games. But, hey, as being an Eagles analyst and understanding when you have a late night game, 8:30, that means I'm not getting home until 2:30 in the morning. So I'm good with this schedule. Being able to go home at a decent hour, I'm good. I might be able to get some 8 o'clock games this year.
Yeah, always selfishly. We always have to separate that. It's always like, even me, like I do the show live at 6 a.m. So for me, hey, that's a night of not sleeping. You know what I'm saying? Hey, but the hell with me, I'd rather my team be on the national stage.
There's no question about that. You know what I mean? But hey, you got me up early, man. Daggone it, you better make sure, man. This is a great show, bro.
I appreciate that, man. Here's the thing. As you know, and I talked about this a lot yesterday, as you know, I worked 11 years on the Sunday Night Football crew, and what I picked up from the primetime people that have heavy influence on the decisions is that there has to be a form of trust between the networks and the teams. Like, you don't want to put a team on if you're the network, if that team is going to get blown out. Like, you want to make sure you have a close game throughout your entire schedule as much as you can. So that kind of worries me then about what the networks are thinking about Nick Sirianni, what the networks are thinking about Jalen Hurts, and overall what kind of team Howie Roseman is fielded here in Philadelphia. Do you get that vibe that there's kind of right now a feeling out process of this version of the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, like I said, I'm used to looking at a winning point of view. And when I look at the schedule, I'm looking like, okay, there's a win with the Lions. They have a losing attitude. A win with Denver. Here's another win with the Jets. But then I had to turn around and really think about it. And I slept last night. And when I woke up the next morning, I woke up in a cold sweat. I'm like, yo, the Eagles are now that team that everybody else is looking at. Eagles are a team that we know that's a win right there. They're checking it off as an automatic win. So now my team is at the point where I see them as being one of those automatic wins that everybody's going to look at.
Yeah, we were just showing the schedule there a second ago. I got to say, it all for me depends on Jalen Hurts. If Jalen Hurts is that quarterback that can mask a lot of the problems that the Eagles might have going into the season, I mean, obviously it goes down to him, and it comes down to how the offensive line is playing and whether or not they're going to be healthy this year. But other than that, like if he just plays good football, not even great football, I think this offense can put up numbers with Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert, right now Zach Ertz still being here, and Devontae Smith and Jalen Reagor. Just assuming people are healthy, how good do you at least think this Eagles offense is, Barrett?
I mean, you look at it, they have a top-ranked offensive line. If those guys stay healthy, and Jordan Mailata starts at the left tackle position, he showed me in that Dallas game that he can be a player. He went out there, put his hands on some people, and he was like, okay, I can put my hands on people and dominate them. And from that point over, he had a different tone in his game in which he went out there against DeMarcus Lawrence. He shut him down after that. He started beating up on him. So I was surprised to see that. So now you have 4/5 of an offensive line that are really good in Sam Malu, Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, and then you have Lane Johnson. But now when you have a guy like Mailata, who's 6'8", 365 pounds, and no longer playing a ukulele. Now he can use his hands to choke a couple people. This could be a top 5 offensive line in the league. And when you have that type of league and line in front of Jalen Hurts, and you now have speed on the outside, think about that. We're not talking about slow guys out there at the wide receiver position. We actually have speed that can go out there and run past people. This is a whole new type of offense. I just don't know what type of offense it is because I don't know Nick Sirianni's offense. But I will say this. They have everything in place to have a good game. They got Miles Sanders who can run the rock. They have some guys, that they're backing him up. There may be some playmakers. Then you look at, the wide receiver position. You got Rager's speed. I mean, what is the slowest person? J-Jaw? I mean, come on, man.
JJ, I think of Whiteside. He might be quick. He might actually be quick for the first time in his career. Quickly out of town this season. If you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Anyway, by the way, I owe you $5. You worked in ukulele, and I bet you couldn't. So I owe you. It's in the mail, you jerk. I'm out $5. Anyway, so you mentioned some of the younger guys. You mentioned Devontae Smith. You've talked about the offensive line. I got to get your thoughts. Just on the draft, I know it was over 2 weeks ago, but just your take on getting Devontae Smith, trading up to get him in the first round. What'd you think of that?
I thought it was masterful. I mean, they needed somebody to go out there and make a splash, not just on the team, but with the city. It was a tough season last year, and everybody was talking about, after the national championship game, all 32 teams looked at what Devontae Smith was, and they wanted him on the team. Now, we understand he's a little slight as far as his build. He's 165 pounds, 6 foot, 6'1". But still, though, every team in the SEC tried to stop him all last year, and nobody could. I mean, he averaged a touchdown a game for his entire college career. He has everything you want from a big-time playmaker, but he's not a guy that's going to go out there. You think he's going to go and run 9 routes and score all the time? No, he's a consistent, really, really good, just fast enough to be a guy that can move the chains. He's going to be that consistent throw that Hurts is going to be looking for. That's what I see Smith is, a chain mover. He's not going to get you the big plays, like a Jalen Reagor, who's going to be supposed to be an explosive player.
Right.
He's a guy that you want consistently moving the chains. He's a possession receiver that can really go out there and make a difference in this offense and keep him on the field. That's what I see Devontae Smith as, and he's a jewel in doing that.
How concerned are you about the weight and how slight of a man he is?
He's been that way his entire life, and everybody's counted him out his entire life. And what has he done? Oh, he just won the Heisman Trophy winner. He's just the best wide receiver last year in college football. That's all he's done.
Right.
His team just won a national championship. He has always had naysayers, and he used it, and he has a chip on his shoulder the size of the Rock of Gibraltar. He's going to go out there and prove it doesn't matter how big the dog is. I'm always a believer that, it's the size of the dog in a fight. Well, he's definitely made his life's passion to make sure it's not the fight the size of the dog. It's the fight that's in the dog.
Damn right.
I see him do that, man. I see him going out there and making a major difference in this league.
He might look like a beagle, right? He might look like a beagle, but man, he's a Rottweiler inside, brother.
He looked like a Dalmatian or something, or he, you know what? He's a Greyhound.
Greyhound. Yeah. God, I miss you. You're the man. Also, okay. So Landon Dickerson, 2nd round pick. I'm sure you've heard by now. A lot of injuries, but
question.
Everything about this guy's personality, everything about his talent, I love. I love this guy. Right? What are you making of that pick? Would you have taken if you were there in the room with Howie Roseman? This is how I like to phrase the question. Would you have said you got to take Landon Dickerson, or would you said too many injuries, pass up on him?
Well, if you say I'm in the same room as Howie, I might have to kick Howie's ass, but I'm just going to be truthful. I thought that was a luxury pick. I'm just being honest, bro.
Okay.
I'm only honest with you, man. I'm honest with you. Howie, I mean, understand why Howie did it. Mm-hmm. They build from the offensive line. They build from the interior on out. And understand why they saw this kid. At the time, if he'd have stayed healthy, he'd have been a top 10 pick. If he'd have stayed healthy, and if it was a spliff, hey, we all be messed up. But at the end of the day, that's a luxury pick for them. They really needed help in the secondary. I mean, in the secondary. Yeah. They need guys to go out there and play corner. They need a corner opposite of big play Slay. Mm-hmm. At this point, they don't have anybody. And you're talking about a league in which so many good receivers. Look, they have 3 great receivers in Dallas, 2 great receivers, with the Washington football team. Dallas went out. The Giants went out and got 3 more wide receivers to add to already good receivers and Saquon Barkley. So, you have to stop these guys, and you can't go out there and use stopgap guys to play against top quality talent. I needed a number 1 DB to go against number 1 talent, at the very least number 2 talent at the wide receiver position. We did not get that. And I'm kind of disappointed at that we didn't have enough, high round picks to get the guys we needed. I mean, Asante Samuels, there were a lot of guys there that could have helped this team out and be more competitive in this division. But they chose not that. They went with a guy that, that hasn't been healthy the past 4 years.
Right.
If he stays healthy, and if we'd be good, but at this point, I can't see us going out there and competing on the defensive side of the ball. You see, we've been talking about the offense, and I've been all, rose-colored glasses and everything. But, the defensive side of the ball, that's real shaky. I don't know what they're going to do, how they're going to control the rest of the NFC East if they don't have guys that can run with the quality receivers that are in this division.
Let's keep it on the defensive side of the ball then for a second here. And Jordan Hicks was given permission by the Arizona Cardinals. When he was with the Eagles and when he was playing, he played great. I mean, when he wasn't hurt, he played great.
Absolutely.
If you're the Eagles, if you're in that room again with Howie Roseman and you haven't kicked his ass yet, would you at least tell him to maybe give the Cardinals a call and say, hey, look, we're interested in trading for Jordan Hicks?
Well, they'd have to get a hometown discount because Hicks would want a new contract when he got in here. They can't afford him right now, but he'd be a great piece in this system that they're running. I mean, Wilson, they just picked him up. Quality guy, can go out there on third downs, play, big in the passing game. And then you have Hicks. Hicks is great in the run and in the pass. At Singleton, he came in and became a major star last year. That's 3 quality linebackers, and I haven't seen 3 quality linebackers in that defensive back. In that defense in a very, very long time. He could be the key to turn things over on the defensive side of the ball. That's exactly how they did it with the Colts when they got Darius Leonard. He went in and solidified that defense. From that point, they played well. So when Gannon was in Minnesota, he had great linebackers there. So maybe they do go out there and spend some money in a position that they've been lacking and haven't spent money in a long time.
We talked briefly about Nick Sirianni and not really sure what to expect. I think the only thing that I am keeping an eye on is 2 tight end sets, especially if you have Zach Ertz still here in Philadelphia. But overall, I got to get your take on this, and I got to talk to that former player. I got to talk to that player, Barrett Brooks. You're a player in the Eagles locker room or wherever you were throughout your career, and Nick Sirianni comes in with the same type of attitude, the same type of delivery as we have seen so far in the press conferences. 1, how do you react to that? And 2, do you think he will be that same type of guy in the locker room?
Well, you got to look at Doug, and you remember his first couple of press conferences. He wasn't the guy that people say would, the most intelligent guy in the room. But if you look at it, he was great when he was calling X's and O's in certain instances, throughout his career here in Philadelphia. You can't always judge a book by its cover. I'm hoping that, he brings a little more to the table. As a player, you want 3 things. Number 1, you want to make sure that this guy's genuine. He's not going to lie to you. Give it to me straight. You know what I mean? So that way I can trust you. Number 2, can he make me better? That's the biggest thing. Can he make me better as a player? And number 3, at the end of the day, if I go into a dogfight and I have you there with my coach, hey, will I be able to keep you in a foxhole with me, or am I going to kick you out? You know what I'm saying? And if he could be in a foxhole with me, then I love that coach. I'll ride by that coach. I'll give everything for that coach. But if he can't do those 3 things, it's going to be hard for this team to trust him. Now, you could be a rah-rah guy in all things in the world, but after a while, if there's no proven results that come with that rah-rah, then he'll just be a guy that goes, wah, 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 be just like Charlie Brown, wah, 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 and they'll just turn him off. He has to make sure he gains the respect, makes them better, and don't lie to him. That team will run with him if he does that.
As of right now, look, we haven't even watched him coach a game yet. We haven't even seen him on the practice field yet. As of right now, do you get that vibe that he will be that foxhole type of coach?
I think he will be a foxhole type of coach, but I also think that he'll be ingenious as far as, his play development and getting guys incorporated into that offense. Defensively, I don't know. I mean, how's he going to run that side of the ball? Right, the relationship he has with Gannon. What type of total coach will he be? In fact, if you look at it, man, a lot of his coaches can actually be my kids. They're that young. I have kids that are older than they are. I got 30-year-old kids. So, he got guys younger than that coaching them.
Mhm.
So, I mean, at this point, I'm trying to figure out, man, hey, is he going to do all right? Is he going to make things happen? Oh, my
Right.
fault. That means the wife has to get up and take the medicine. You know what I'm saying? She just had a knee replacement. So she got to get up and take the medicine. That's my clock letting me know that. So, hey.
Well, I won't keep it. She can hold on. She doesn't need the medicine right now. No.
Right.
Do you need to text her? Do you need to bring her on and just say, hey, babe, take the medicine?
No, I'm about to, elbow her in a minute, kick the bed. Get up.
All right. Couple quick ones for you here. Was there a coach that brought the best out of you? You said Nick Sirianni needs to bring the best out of some of these players. Was there a coach that you looked to that brought the best out of you?
Oh, it depends what you wanted. I had Cowher. Cowher's a player's coach. And once he says something to you, he meant it. You knew he was genuine with it. So you'll go to war for him. You'll do everything it takes to make sure that he looks good. And the product he's putting out there is dependable. So you love that type of coach. But then I had a guy like Ray Rhodes. Ray Rhodes is, he was a street guy. You know what I'm saying? He gonna tell you like it is. I mean, that game before we played the Detroit Lions back in 1995, when we beat up on them, 95-96 season, when we beat up on that Detroit Lion team, where the guarantee was, at that point, I'd have ran through a brick wall with the speech he gave us. I didn't know how to react when he first said it, but then I got it. I understood what he was saying. It was a little derogatory here and there, but I understood what he was saying, and we went out there and choked the life out of the Detroit Lion team. So I had both aspects of it. I love playing for Coach Rhodes. I love playing for Coach, Cowher. Those are two guys that I still love to this day, man.
Is that the speech where he was – I've heard snippets about basically, to summarize, somebody breaks into your home with your family there?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I think that's enough. I don't think we have to go any further.
He does some things. They do some things. For sure, bro.
All right. You used a word that no one's used yet with Nick Sirianni. I got one more after this, but with Nick Sirianni, you use the word ingenious in terms of play calling, in terms of play development and all that. What gives you that amount of confidence? The resume and working with Frank Reich, what is it?
It's more so that he came on and said the things that he said. I mean, what he said makes sense. So at this point, you have to be able to be a great mind in coaching. If you're to go out there talking about, rock, paper, scissors, you have to be ingenious. You have to make sure that you can go out there and coach. If a guy says that, you can't be, you have to be ingenious to do that.
I'm with you. I love the rock, paper, scissors thing. You got to get creative. You got to get creative.
Whatever you do, you got to do it to the best of your ability. I really think that his concepts and the way he's trying to do, and the little things that I heard as far as, getting players to play not just one position, but many positions, understanding, the X, the Y, the Z, you have to be interchangeable in all those sets. And if you can get guys to play to the best of their abilities and use them in different places, you can't key on them. And I thought that's what happened with Doug a little later on in his game planning. If you can get them to play in different positions, you can't get a beat on them. And I really think he's going to allow these guys to flourish in this different system, because you're not going to be able to game plan them and specifically say, are they going to run this play with this formation with these guys in there? All
right. Last thing for you, Tim Tebow back in the NFL.
What are we doing, man? I can't believe we're going to bring up the Tim Tebow thing. Tim Tebow, come on, man. Give me a break. I understand, they're trying to, rekindle this Duval thing, with them being back in Florida and, the head coach Myers being a Florida guy, he coached. Tebow, you're really taking a spot away from a young guy trying to get his dreams and make his dreams come true. And at this point, you're taking away from him.
You know what, though, Barrett? That Tim Tebow, he's a good man.
Yes, he's a good man. You know what I'm saying? You-hoo. Yeah, if you guys don't know, you-hoo. He's a good man.
Barrett, I like jokes that are just funny to you and me. Anyway, and also my apologies. I just bought a new espresso machine. Any espresso I've ever made you before, and there's been a lot of them, as we both know, was dog crap compared to the one that I just got now. Yeah, I owe you. We upgrade, my friend. Upgrade. Next time we're out, I'll bring the espresso machine with me.
Oh, can't wait.
We'll be throwing them back, brother.
No pressure, man. Can't wait, bro.
All right. His name is Barrett Brooks. You can catch him on the middle with jacobmedia.com. You can also catch him, of course, on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Barrett, you're my brother. Always good seeing you, my friend. You have a great weekend, and take care of the missus.
All right, definitely, man. Take it easy, bro.
Barrett Brooks joining us on the Zatos Investments guest line. Always a pleasure talking to my good friend Barrett Brooks. Always good to catch up with him. No doubt. We're going to get to all your comments, you crazy people, on our social media check-in coming up in just a second. But right now, I do want to tell you about DraftKings. And we also, a little spoiler, not spoiler, but kind of peel back the curtain and let you in for a second. The reason we were like 2 minutes late is because I was working on the Farzy in the field segment this morning, and of course, just everything was hitting the fan, and it just wasn't working out. Technical difficulties, and shout out to Jim Hyden, the fine producer of this program, who was able to slap it together, as we used to say. So we'll have that for you a little bit later, and it's a little bit different on Farzy in the field, brought to you by FanUp, of course. I wanted to give people the opportunity. To make fun of an accent where we could kind of strike back. Like the Philadelphia accent's been made fun of a lot, particularly the Delco accent was being made fun of thanks to the mayor of Easttown, whatever. And I actually just saw a little bit of that show for the first time last night because the Sixers were sucking at basketball, and during a commercial, I was like, "What else is on?" Flick, 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 and I sure enough, it was on the HBO. So I was watching a little bit, and it was so authentic. It was like, I don't feel like hanging out with my Delco friends. And I went back to the Sixers right away. But, yeah, they did a fine job, the people of that program. I will say it kind of, if you have a Delco friend, and I think we all have Delco friends, if you have a Delco friend, it kind of, the accent they do is kind of the accent we do when we're making fun of the Delco friend. That's kind of how I can best describe it to some people. It's got a little extra stank on it, is what I'm saying. You know? Anyway, so we'll get to that in just a second. It'll be brought to you by our friends at FanUp. But right now, I got to tell you about our friends over there at PHLSportsNation.com. That's Philadelphia Sports Nation. Check them out. Philadelphia Sports Nation, a local Philadelphia sports site covering your favorite teams across blogs and social media. PHLSportsNation.com. Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience. Hope you're getting ready with DraftKings. For the great people of DraftKings Sportsbook, UFC 262, the card is unbelievable. Make sure you get in on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sportsbook and sports betting partner of UFC. You got Diaz, you got Chandler going on this weekend. Make sure you get involved in all the action. And also, with DraftKings, you can turn $1 into $100. It's 100-1 odds on any fighter that you like to win. Bet $1 on select fighters, and you can win $100 if you just bet $1. No better way to put your MMA knowledge to the test than to put your money where your mouth is with DraftKings Sportsbook. Don't worry if MMA isn't for you. DraftKings Sportsbook offers great odds and promotions on basketball and hockey and so much more. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 when you bet on the main card fighter to win. Place your bet and watch the fists fly this weekend and use promo code Farzy to turn $1 into $100 on select main card fighters. For a limited time, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Present in Pennsylvania. New customers only. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. How about our good friends over there at Steak and Main? SteakandMain.com. They bring us our social media check-in every day. Well, you should check in at Steak and Main. Go to steakandmain.com for more information. Right in the heart of Northeast Maryland, whether you like to dine in a more upscale steakhouse or casual bar and patio, you'll enjoy the highest quality of prime meats, fresh seafood, world-class oyster bar, and freshly prepared sushi. All that and an extensive wine list, including their own Cavada Cellars wines. My man Tony Cavada, from his family to your family, right to the table. Open every day for lunch, dinner, or Sunday brunch. Steak and Main in Northeast Maryland voted #1 place for steaks in America by the Travel Channel and the Cooking Channel. Check it out for yourself at steakandmain.com for more information. FanUp is going to be bringing us Farzy in the field, as they do every week. FanUp, make sure you download the FanUp app right now. Go to the App Store, download the FanUp app, use promo code FanUp, and get 2,000 bonus points right out of the gate. I was hitting bets yesterday. Joel Embiid actually helped me out a little bit. Had the under right there. So you can have some fun betting with FanUp. You can also have fun with fantasy sports. Make a gentleman's bet. Put it in writing on FanUp. Squad up with your friends because the days of playing fantasy sports alone are over. May the best fan win with FanUp. Go to the App Store. Download the FanUp app. 2,000 bonus points when you use promo code FANUP, and it's the only place you can not only win cash, you can not only win points and rise on their leaderboard, but you can also win brand prizes. How great is that? You can also win memorabilia, Peloton bike, Louis Vuitton bag, all sorts of great stuff with the FanUp app. Create your profile. May the best fan win. You could be the real MVP with FanUp. All right, let's jump to our social media check-in, brought to you by Steak and Maine and steakandmaine.com. You people, the savages, tell you that right now. Still, what are we, like 3 days after we talked to Mike Sealski, friend of mine for a long time, and people are still going after him. I'm starting to think you're just goating me. That's what I think you're doing. You're just goating me. Anyway, my man Matt's back in the chat. He's been working nights, but he's back with us. Good to have you. Nice to have you back partying with us there, Matt. A lot of comments today. I think ever since my boy Dan Schwartz got involved in the comments, they've just been flowing more so than ever. So welcome in there, Dan. Mally's checking in as he does every day, saying good morning. Good morning, Mally. Nice to have you as always. What else do we have here? Mally is the GOAT, according to Mac, excuse me. And I would agree right there. Billy checking in. Benny. Matt checking in. Matt, Farzy, how much did you clean up on North Broad? Is that a compliment? Does that mean that in college when I was there at Temple University that the ladies liked me? You're not far off. What else do I got here? John, you're a funny man, and you might not be wrong. Matt checking in. Marc the Shark, I've been working nights. Welcome back, baby. Nice to have you back there, Matt. Jeff's checking in. You guys are brutal, but funny. They are. You guys are enjoyable. That's why I enjoy these social media check-in, because I want to know what the good people of Philadelphia are thinking, the people that watch this show or listen to the show on the podcast. I try to make this show as audio-friendly as possible, but somebody pointed out to me as I was eating the Hers delicious, fiery hot, fire-roasted corn yesterday, the popcorn. Again, delicious. Buy it. It's fantastic. Somebody said, if you're listening to this just on the podcast, this could sound like porn. And it very well could sound like erotica. I tried to label it for the people that I was eating popcorn. Delicious, buttery, little tang to it as well with a little spice. Popcorn. I couldn't help it. I actually was eating a little bit while I was watching the game last night. I was crying in my Hers popcorn watching the Sixers is what I was doing. Yeah, it was. I try to make it as audio friendly as possible for the people that do just download the podcast and enjoy it that way. So, and if you do, thank you. Still a lot of Sealski comments. People talking about Barrett and I having fun. Barrett and I have a lot of fun. I do miss that man. It was a lot of fun he was a lot of fun to work with. Pete, I'm a DC transplant. Would love that. Very close to me. Oh yeah, definitely check out Steak and Maine, my friend, if that's what you're getting to. First time 2 weeks ago in Farzy. You are not kidding. Oh, yeah. Thomas is checking and saying we're doing a Steak and Maine road trip, Farzy. You should. Pete's saying that he's been there. Okay. All right. I apologize. This is the beauty of when you do the show live. So Pete is saying that he's been to Steak and Maine and absolutely loved it. Good, Pete. I'm glad you enjoyed it. That place is awesome. The tomahawk steaks are my favorite thing in the world. The guy does. Tony Cavada does that better than anybody. Ian saying he listened to the podcast and was a little creeped out by me eating popcorn. But nonetheless, I hope you should buy the popcorn. You should buy the popcorn. I recommend it. That was our social media check-in brought to you by the great people of Steak and Maine and steakandmaine.com. That's what you people are saying right now. How about the people in Philadelphia yesterday? To set the scene one more time for this week's Farzy in the Field. Here you go. The SNL sketch last weekend went viral. I mean, everyone was seeing, they're making fun of the Delco accent, the Philly accent, whatever. So I wanted to give Philadelphians the opportunity to kind of strike back. And I gave them an opportunity to say, you know what, make fun of any accent. Do any accent, and just the floor is yours. Creative control goes to you. So I went out yesterday at Rittenhouse Square, and I found some people, but you know, they weren't that good. There was one guy that was really good, and that man's name is Jackson. And it's the only time, probably the only time ever, Farzy in the Field will feature one subject, my new friend Jackson. So without further ado, brought to you by the great people, the FanUp. Here is Farzy in the Field. Philadelphia accent right now. So I found my new friend, Jackson, really close friends. Jackson's going to do a New York accent for us because I want to give Philadelphia the opportunity to make fun of somebody else's accent. All right, Jackson, you're up. Go on, New York.
Everyone's talking like the Knicks suck. Knicks suck this, Knicks suck that. You know what? We clinched the playoffs. It might be 8 years, but it's the playoffs. And the Mets, 7 games. 7 games. When's the last time you see the Phillies win 7 games? Never. They're down in the dumps with your big fat green turkey-looking mascot, whatever that is. And then, you know what? The Jets are looking good. They got the number 2 pick. I don't want Trevor Lawrence with his Disney princess hair. That. I don't need that. I don't need some Disney hula-la running Jaguars. We're the Jets. We got Zach Wilson with his hot mom, with his short hair. He looks like a Disney king, not a princess.
All right, that was really good. That was really, really good. Kudos to you. Now, what's your real voice, just so people have a reference?
My name is Jackson, and I talk like this.
All right, maybe stick with the New York accent. Thank you. Appreciate you. That was great. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. FarzyShow.com. That guy just out of nowhere. Nothing scripted. And yes, people saying, is he 18? He's 18. Thank you very much. Good times. So yeah, you can see why I just went with one guy. Nobody was topping that. It wasn't. Yeah, that guy was enjoyable. Anyway, that was Farzy the Field, brought to you by FanUp. I think Philadelphia strike back. Let's just put it that way. Also following the some more comments. People enjoyed that little segment right there. Brian saying I'm showing off my Temple education by struggling with the reading. It's not so much struggling with the reading as it is following the comments. People were telling me earlier in the week I needed like a hot weather girl for the show, and I'm not against it. But really what I would need is somebody just to be able to follow the comments so that I could put it together chronologically and tie it out into what we were talking about in the show. So, Miss Scusi. That was Farzy the Field, brought to you by FanUp. Let's jump into our morning rush right now. Our morning rush segment brought to you by Sky Motorcars and SkyMotorcars.com. I told you we get a little bit more on the Phillies. Told you I give you a little bit more on Kobe Bryant getting inducted to the Hall of Fame this weekend. So much to get to. So let's get to it right now. Phillies yesterday, they lose 5-1. Zach Eflin settled in nicely after a rough first inning where he allowed four runs and 2 bombs of home runs, by the way. But here's what I noticed yesterday. In watching that game, Jeff Nelson, a home plate umpire's strike zone, remember when Jamie Moyer pitched for the Phils and he only pitched really well towards especially the last year when he was with the Phillies, when he had the corners. When he got the corners called, that 86-mile-per-hour fastball, man, woof, when he was painting the black, oh, man, he was looking pretty good. Yesterday kind of reminded me of that because although Zach Eflin, like I said, did settle in nice and gave you 5 strong innings, really. He pitched 6, but 5 of them were strong. Zach Eflin was painting the corners, but there was a couple of instances where a home plate umpire, Jeff Nelson, the cliche of he's got somewhere to be, he's got a dinner reservation, he's got a flight to catch, whatever, certainly applied in this game. But here's my thing. If you're an umpire and you're pissing off that many people with your calls on the outside corner, wouldn't you think that you're wrong? Like, eventually, wouldn't you be like, well, man, I better tighten the strike zone a little bit because apparently I'm calling it too many. Now, there's a couple of times where Zach Eflin did, in fact, paint the outside corners or inside corners. There's a couple of times he threw that inside or the 2-seam fastball tail and back across the plate, and it was a great pitch. But there are other times where, damn, that was off. And there's no better example than Kyle Schwarber. Still struggle with that one. Kyle Schwarber's rant and raving after he struck out against Zach Eflin in the 4th inning, I believe it was. But Eflin ended up giving you a nice outing after he allowed 4 runs in the 1st inning. He settled in nicely, and the bats never picked him up, unfortunately. Phillies are going to start a 3-game set north of the border with the Toronto Blue Jays starting today at 7:37, I believe it is, in Toronto. But here's the thing. They face Steven Matz, longtime Met Steven Matz. So a lot of these bats in the lineup should be very much in tune with what Matz is trying to do today. So hopefully Phillies get off to a nice start. Left-handed pitcher. Want to see Rhys Hoskins break out a little bit, get back to some of those power numbers he was putting up a couple of weeks ago. So we'll get to that. Vince Velasquez, by the way, pitches for the Phillies today. The Sixers last night, I've talked at length a bunch about how the Sixers struggled last night, and you never want to see that. And I alluded to it. I told you we get to it in this segment. I alluded to Danny Green's comments about how when you face a playoff team, really the defending Eastern Conference champion, Miami Heat, you want to make sure that you're stacking up well against them. You want to put forth a good effort. And the Sixers got toyed with last night. Well, Danny Green talked about maybe some of the positives you could take out of a loss like this. Here's Danny Green after the Sixers lost last night.
Games like this are good for us. Don't say a loss, but playing like a playoff team down the stretch right now gets you prepared just see, especially a team that we might match up with down the stretch, to see how we match up with them and how what adjustments we need to make is always a good challenge. But 20-point loss is never a good loss. I think you learn a lot more from a loss than a win, but I think just the challenge itself is what's going to help us and in the long run and in the future.
Judging by the comments throughout today's show, nobody was pissed off at the Sixers last night. Are you guys just in the mood of they got the 1 seed, they'll be fine? Because I didn't have that. Like yesterday, my confidence in this team took a hit. If they could get owned that much, if they could get toyed with that much, and they got to face the Heat at some point in the playoffs, there's something about the Heat that just really bothers me. And as much as I want to take it for granted, we've seen this team, I don't know if choke is the right word, but we've seen this team definitely last year, bubble situation, Ben Simmons goes out, Shake Milton is all of a sudden your starting lineup. You don't have Doc Rivers, you don't have Seth Curry, you don't have Danny Green and all that. Last year, I don't feel like they choked. I mean, they certainly got swept out of the playoffs by the Celtics, but my expectations in the bubble weren't that high for the Sixers. Going into shutdown, they were high. But once they got into the bubble, and especially after they lost Ben Simmons, they weren't. Right now, if the Sixers lose in the second round of the playoffs, that's a flat-out choke. Choke and a half, as a matter of fact. This Sixers team, I was on a podcast yesterday with my man Jigsaw Tony Jigsaw. A great guy, great podcast that they do. And he was asking me about, is it finals or bust for the Sixers? And I'll never go against somebody that has the mindset of making it to the finals or it's a bust. Like, I won't be against that. But I would better describe it as you got to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. If you're the number 1 seed and you're a Sixers team that hasn't made it out of the second round of the playoffs since Allen Iverson was playing for this team, and you got this lineup, and you got these all-stars and Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, and you got this coach and these reserves and these shooters, you gotta at least make it to the conference finals. You gotta at least make it up against the Brooklyn Nets, if that's in fact who also makes it to the Eastern Conference Finals. It is Eastern Conference or bust, as far as I'm concerned. So that's the way I look at it. And I'd be greatly disappointed if they didn't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And last night's game, it was a bit of a shakeup. Watching them get owned in that way, dominated, out-hustled. I said this earlier, but I can understand how another team just gets hot and shoots 57% from the floor. It's going to happen in the NBA. But to just get beat on the boards the way that comes down to effort. And if you're an MVP candidate and Joel Embiid likes to tell us that he is, that should never happen. You should be owning those boards. What else do we have? I wanted to make sure I got to this thing. Sixers, like I said, back in action tonight against the Orlando Magic in South Philly. Here's what I got on Kobe. And I'm 38 years old. And when I was watching that finals run, and they play the Lakers, and they go into overtime, and Iverson drops 50, and the step over, and the whole thing, I was like 17, 18 years old. And I'm in high school, and I'm at like the peak of my Sixers fandom and loving AI and all that. And I wanted to see the Philly kid, Kobe Bryant, Philadelphia area kid against Kobe Bryant. And I wanted to see that matchup and wanted to see AI versus that Lakers team. And I always say this whenever I get the chance to talk about it. That year, it was a party at everybody's house. Everybody, every night, it was a different party at somebody's house. Watching that finals run, going through the playoffs against the Bucks and the Raptors and the Pacers and all that, and then going up to face Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal and Robert Horry and all those guys of the Lakers. And I just remember thinking, man, like, this guy's from Philly, lived in Italy a little bit, and I admired his game, and watching Jordan through the real really idolizing basketball players and Michael Jordan and all that. It was like a copy and paste. And I know this has been said a lot since Kobe has passed, but I always just felt like it was a copy and paste situation where if I didn't get a chance to watch Jordan and I wanted to see somebody play that same exact style of basketball and have that same exact competitive edge, I would say, oh, you didn't see Jordan? Watch Kobe. It's the closest thing you'll get to it. And it really, I really miss watching that style because that style doesn't exist in basketball anymore. As everyone knows by now, it's all about three-pointers and it's all about shooting like that nowadays. But watching that style of guys slash, even Allen Iverson slashing, getting to the rim, getting fouled, getting the N1, you really don't see that anymore in the NBA because it's all about the outside shot. But I love that style of Michael Jordan, and I loved watching that style with Kobe Bryant. But back to being more personal with it, I hated Kobe. I hated the Lakers. I wanted the Sixers to take it to them. I knew they weren't going to. But being at that age and that just submerged in fandom, I just hated that Lakers team. And when Kobe made the comment of, I don't care how big your heart is, I want to cut your heart out. And I know the counter to that comment, and that's what he said about Philadelphia, where he grew up. And I know that a lot of people at the time say, oh, if that's our guy, we love that. And the thing is, it was kind of our guy. It was a guy that grew up here. And I hated that comment. And I hated on Kobe forever because of that. And you know what? I still hate it. I still hate that comment. And I'll still not accept it and all that. But, man, I always thought for the longest time, Kobe was more so a kid from Italy than he was a kid from Lower Merion. And I'll tell you what his passing did. And I always respected Kobe Bryant. Like I just said, I put him on the same level in terms of how we played the game, like Michael Jordan. I put him on that same level. But when he passed, and in the tragic way that it happened, I'll never forget, I was at my brother's house, and I was just scrolling on my phone. We had a little family get-together. And I'm scrolling on my phone, and I just go, oh, my God, Kobe Bryant died. And it was like everyone in the room, what? No. What? And, of course, the way most things happen now, it's TMZ, and you're not sure what to believe right out of the gate, and you didn't know if his whole family was on the helicopter. And after that moment, as everybody did, you reflected on Kobe's life. And I hope you got to listen to some of the interviews that I did at the time with people that knew Kobe personally. And I got a chance to meet him at an event about a year before he passed. And he was just great with everybody. He was at Overbrook High School. And he was just talking to people, talking to kids about reading, the importance of reading, and the book that he was writing and all that. And getting to talk to guys like Marc Jackson, former Sixer, Temple Owl as well. You see him on NBC, and getting to talk to guys like Jim Lynam, same thing, and seeing him on NBC, and talking to other guys, Joey Crawford, a former ref in the NBA, Daryl Reynolds, NBA or Villanova star, Lower Merion guy, and hearing the impact that Kobe had on Philadelphia as he was that up-and-coming player. Hearing the legends of him taking it to Jerry Stackhouse at St. Joe's back when Jerry Stackhouse was a Sixer, and how he was just dominating as this like teenage kid, dominating as like a 12-year-old kid playing at McGonigal Hall. And I remember that comment. I go back to the comment about cut your heart out and, if that's our guy. Well, that was a big Philly moment, if you will, for Kobe Bryant. And although I think a lot of people took it like I took it, where you felt like he was separating himself from Philly, it was like, no, that's what a Philly kid would say. Like, he doesn't care how big your heart is. He wants to cut your heart out. Like, that was a very Philly moment now that I look back on it. And as I learned more about Kobe and learned about those pickup games he would play at McGonigal Hall or pickup games he'd play at St. Joe's, and listen to a guy like Phil Martelli talk about Kobe Bryant coming in to work out all hours of the day to make sure he put his work in. Like, that right there is exactly what we're proud of in Philadelphia. We're proud of a blue-collar work ethic, and that is essentially what Kobe Bryant had. And watching him take it to the next level in the NBA and 5 championships, and watching him refine his game and add things to his arsenal was so unbelievably Jordan-like. And overall, my point is, what I realized after Kobe Bryant passed away was just how Philadelphia he was, when for the longest time, I thought he tried to separate himself from the Philadelphia mentality and from the Philadelphia fandom and from the area as much as he possibly could. When underneath it all, he was still doing everything he could for his high school locally in Lower Merion, and he was still doing a lot for the community here in Philadelphia. And man, the watching his show, the movie I think he made, The Muse, where he talked about trying to get reintegrated with the Philadelphia lifestyle after coming back from his father playing overseas. It was really wild. And listening to all the stories after he passed away about just how Philadelphia he was and how much Philadelphia was in him, it was almost shocking to me as a guy that just kind of followed his career as a Laker and only really found out about him being so true to the city of Philadelphia after the fact. And if I have a regret, it's that I didn't know. I mean, sure, I knew about him at Lower Merion and all that, but you have to understand at the same time, there was a letter I remember the mayor wrote at the time, John Street, to Kobe Bryant about how he is from Philly and all that other stuff. And people was like, no, he's from Lower Merion. He ain't a Philly kid. Man, if he ain't from Philly, he's certainly from Philly basketball. And aside from just being an NBA fan and watching him play and all that, man, I'm really going to miss that style. And I'm hoping at some point the NBA goes back to that style of basketball where I like the three-pointer will start to go a little bit more out of date, and people like Joel Embiid actually plays a similar style in terms of trying to get to the rim to get fouled and go to the line and get the N1. That nobody really plays like that in the NBA anymore, but then again, he's a center, so he can do it a little bit different. But I would love to see the NBA go back and have that type of guy like an Allen Iverson or a Kobe Bryant or a Michael Jordan, where I'm just talking about style of play. I'm not saying there's going to be those people growing on trees, but just that style of basketball. And watching Kobe Bryant play, there was an art to it. And, man, I'm really going to miss that. And I'm looking forward to hearing what Michael Jordan has to say. But he's enshrining him, basically. And he's his presenter at the Basketball Hall of Fame. That's what I have on Kobe for you today. And that's going to round out our morning rush, brought to you by Sky Motorcars and SkyMotorcars.com. Big bets. I didn't see what the line is tonight for the Sixers, but damn, they're playing the Magic, obviously. They better blow out the Magic. I actually like the Phillies. If I'm going to bet anything tonight, I'm going to bet Rhys Hoskins to hit a home run tonight. I'm going to throw a couple of bucks on Rhys Hoskins to hit a home run tonight against Mats of the Toronto Blue Jays. Always get good odds there and big payouts. And it's like throw a couple of bucks there, you could get a big payout right there. I like Rhys Hoskins to go yard tonight. How about that on the road in Toronto? Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening. Always a pleasure communicating with you guys. Thanks for subscribing on our YouTube channel and also download the podcast as well. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy, hopefully, the Sixers clinching the #1 seed, and also enjoy, hopefully, a Phillies another series victory on the road, nonetheless, against the Toronto Blue Jays. My thanks to Jim Hyde to produce the program, especially today, hustling to get Farzy in the field done. Appreciate you, Jim. And also, this is a Buzz Sports Entertainment production. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take it easy.